The snow was falling so hard that night it erased footprints within seconds, swallowing secrets, burying the weak. On the corner of a glittering downtown street, beneath the golden lights of towering buildings, a young woman stood trembling in a thin sweater, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as if she could hug the warmth back into her bones. Her lips were pale, her fingers almost blue, and the wind cut through her like shattered glass. Cars passed. People hurried by. No one stopped. No one saw her. But one man did. If you believe that one act of kindness can change 2 lives forever, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Lonely Dad Strong Heart. Your support keeps these emotional stories alive, and if you believe in kindness and second chances, this story is for you. Ethan Caldwell was a man who had everything money could buy and nothing his heart could keep. At 38, he was known across the city as the youngest real estate billionaire in New York City. His name appeared in magazines beside polished skyscrapers and luxury penthouses. He wore tailored suits that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He lived in a glass mansion overlooking the river. But behind the headlines and the polished smile was a widowed single father who still woke up some nights reaching for a hand that was no longer there. 3 years earlier, he had lost his wife, Amelia, in a sudden car accident during a winter storm much like this one. Since then, his world revolved around his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, whose bright laughter was the only sound that could soften the echo of grief in their silent home. Ethan had built walls around his heart, thick and cold as concrete. He worked endlessly, convinced that success would shield his daughter from pain. Yet every night, when he tucked her into bed, he saw the question in her eyes, "Why does Daddy look so sad?" That night, Ethan had stayed late at the office, finalizing a multi-million-dollar deal. The board members praised his brilliance. Investors shook his hand, but as he stepped out into the icy air, all he felt was emptiness. His driver was running late, and for once, Ethan decided to walk a few blocks instead of waiting. The city shimmered with holiday lights, but the beauty felt distant. And then he saw her. She stood near the entrance of a closed cafe, shivering violently, trying to shield herself from the wind. Snowflakes clung to her long dark hair. She looked no older than 25. There was something fragile about her posture, yet something stubborn too, as if she refused to collapse no matter how hard life pushed her down. People passed her with polite indifference. Ethan slowed his steps. For a moment, he hesitated. He had seen poverty before. He had donated millions to charities. But this was different. This was not a statistic or a foundation report. This was a human being freezing in front of him. Her name was Sofia Ramirez. Just 6 months earlier, she had been a nursing student full of hope. She had moved to the city from a small town, carrying a single suitcase and big dreams. But life in the city had been merciless. Her part-time job at a restaurant ended abruptly when the owner shut down. Her savings vanished into rent and tuition. When her landlord discovered she was behind on payments, he changed the locks without mercy. Pride kept her from calling her estranged family. Fear kept her from sleeping in shelters. And so, on that brutal winter night, she stood alone, trying not to cry because tears would only freeze on her cheeks. Ethan walked toward her before he could talk himself out of it. He saw how her shoulders trembled uncontrollably. Without speaking much, he removed his heavy wool coat and gently placed it around her. The warmth shocked her body. She gasped softly, her eyes widening in disbelief. She looked at him as if he were something unreal, a stranger offering comfort without asking for anything in return. For Ethan, the moment felt strangely personal. When he wrapped the coat around her, he felt something crack inside him, not in pain, but in release. For the first time in years, he wasn't acting as a billionaire. He was simply acting as a human being. He asked if she had somewhere safe to go. She shook her head. The wind howled between them. He could have handed her money and walked away. That would have been easier. Cleaner. But instead, he made a decision that surprised even himself. He offered to take her somewhere warm, somewhere safe. His driver had arrived by then, eyes wide at the sight of his employer standing coatless in the snow. Sofia hesitated. The world had not been kind to her lately. Trust felt dangerous. But something about Ethan's tired eyes told her he understood loss. And so she nodded. That night, instead of returning to his silent mansion, Ethan booked a suite at a luxury hotel and arranged for Sofia to stay there temporarily. He insisted it was only until she found stability. He paid for warm meals, fresh clothes, and ensured she could resume her nursing classes. But he did it quietly, without cameras, without publicity. In the days that followed, something unexpected began to happen. Sophia's presence brought warmth not just to herself but to Ethan's home. When she met Lily for the first time, the little girl clung to her instantly. Sophia had a gentle way of speaking, a softness that made children feel safe. She helped Lily with homework, braided her hair before school, and filled the house with laughter that had been missing for years. Ethan watched it all with cautious hope. He told himself it was temporary, that she would move on once she found her footing. But every evening, when they shared dinner and Sophia spoke about her dream of becoming a nurse to help families who couldn't afford care, he felt admiration growing into something deeper. Yet the world doesn't let broken people heal without testing them first. Rumors began to spread. A journalist spotted Sophia entering Ethan's car one morning. Headlines twisted the story, painting her as a gold digger and Ethan as a reckless billionaire entangled in scandal. Investors questioned his judgment. Social media judged Sophia without knowing her name. The pressure mounted quickly. Sophia felt humiliated. She had worked so hard to regain dignity, and now strangers reduced her to cruel assumptions. She considered leaving to protect Ethan and Lily from further damage. She packed her small bag quietly one night, believing it was the only way to repay his kindness. But Lily saw her. The child's tearful eyes shattered Sophia's resolve. Ethan found them in the hallway, his daughter clinging to the woman who had unknowingly become the heart of their home. In that moment, Ethan realized that losing Sophia would mean reopening wounds he had just begun to close. For the first time since his wife's death, Ethan spoke openly about his fear of loving again. He admitted he was terrified of another loss. Sophia confessed she was afraid of never being enough, of always being seen as someone rescued rather than someone worthy. Their vulnerabilities met in the quiet hallway, stronger than any rumor. Ethan chose to stand publicly by her side. At a press conference meant to address business concerns, he did something unexpected. Instead of defending profits, he defended compassion. He spoke about how society judges the struggling and forgets their humanity. He shared Sophia's dream of becoming a nurse. He announced a new foundation in his late wife's name to support students facing homelessness. The room fell silent. For once, the billionaire wasn't talking about buildings, he was talking about hearts. Public opinion slowly shifted. People saw the sincerity in his actions. Donations poured into the foundation. Sophia returned to her studies with renewed strength. She graduated at the top of her class, tears streaming down her face as she held her diploma. In the crowd, Ethan and Lily stood cheering the loudest. Years later, on another snowy evening, Ethan recreated the night that changed everything. He led Sophia to the same corner where she once stood shivering. But this time, she wore a warm coat and a confident smile. Snow fell gently around them as he knelt down, holding not just a ring but a promise, that no matter how cold life became, they would face it together. Sophia said yes through tears. Lily jumped into their arms. And as the snow covered the city once more, it no longer felt cruel. It felt like a blessing. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something special. If this journey of kindness, courage, and second chances has touched your heart even a little, please comment, "Kindness changes lives," below. Let's fill the comments with hope. Ethan once thought wealth was measured in numbers. Sophia once believed she was invisible. But that winter night proved something far greater, that the warmest coat is compassion, and the richest heart is one willing to love again. And if this story moved you, if you felt the cold, the fear, and the healing alongside them, please like, share, and subscribe to Lonely Dad's Strong Heart. Your engagement helps these powerful stories reach more hearts who need them. Because sometimes, all it takes is one coat in the snow, to warm two lonely souls forever.